Dream here. No internet access all of a sudden. I'm kind of clueless as to what's going on here. I'm gonna have to, I guess, straighten this out with Xfinity, but yeah, that wasn't my doing. I just went. Good morning, YouTube. Tired Metalhead Weatherman. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. So, last night was pretty crazy, if I had to say so myself. We had a moderate risk yesterday, and we had multiple tornadoes that ended up occurring in Texas and Oklahoma, and then surprisingly, we even had tornadoes in Michigan and Ohio. And then Florida ended up being the real surprise of the night, where we had a tornado hit towards Pensacola Beach here. So it was actually pretty significant damage across the board. Unfortunately, there were some fatalities from what I heard, and there's some pretty significant damage. I'll have to get in that another time. But unfortunately, we still have severe weather to go, and it's expected to be persistent throughout the weekend. So, pretty much consider this to be your weekend forecast here, so to speak. We're going to be covering severe weather. We're going to be covering weather across the country here. My model data is a little bit limited and could be dodgy, but I wanted to make sure I covered everybody this weekend before I got off to work here this morning. So if we look at current tornado reports, we are sitting at 7 right now, but I know there's more than that considering they haven't counted any of the tornadoes in Florida from last night. And I think there was at least one in Ohio that was an observed tornado. So a lot more to come here. These reports are not final. I will be making an update on that. Maybe even analyzing some of these storms down the line here. But overall, pretty big time severe weather outbreak. Wind ended up being the main threat with 182 reports, and hail with 168 reports, excuse me, along with 25 significant reports of hail and 9 significant reports of wind. So these numbers, I do expect a few more reports to come in, so it'll be interesting to see what the final totals are with this. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the weather risk for today. So, trimodal slight risk actually, because this was originally a marginal, but this got upgraded last night. We still have problems over here towards the southeast, and then the high plains, especially towards the western plains. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We have relatively low tornado threat. The main threat is going to be wind and hail with the other areas in particular, but I'm particularly more so concerned about this area between Kansas and Colorado as far as the tornado threat's concerned right now. As far as wind is concerned, it goes all the way up into South Dakota. It's been a while since we've had South Dakota in the action here. And then also Nebraska as well. But this is what we're looking at for today. Then we have tomorrow's outlook, where we're focusing once again towards the Central Plains and the Gulf Coast. Again, it's a pretty similar deal. Tornado threats at a 2%er right now. We could see upgrades with that depending on how conditions weather conditions ramp up or not. Then we also have the wind and hail threat here. The hail threat, of course, seems to be more so with the Central Plains setup versus over here towards the Gulf Coast. Hail threat isn't significant for you guys. I think damaging winds and tornadoes are going to be the main threat for this region here. When we look towards day 3, can't look at the hazard types because we're not within 48 hours range, but we do have a big 15% area that stretches into the Ozarks and parts of Dixie Alley now. We have Greenville, Jackson, and Memphis involved in the slight risk. Birmingham, you are just outside of it. We also have to watch Montgomery as well. We have Shreveport in there too. And then also these marginal risk areas can't be discounted either. Jackson, Birmingham, Columbus, Georgia. We already had crazy weather over there the other day. Dothan, Mobile, Panama City, Tallahassee, New Orleans, even stretching all the way back pretty close to Dallas too. We could be in line for some severe weather on Sunday. So what does it look like on the models right now? So here we are. We're going to look at the NAM today. I don't always like looking at the NAM because sometimes it can be overdone on this model, but this is the best that I've got for this range. So That's what we're going to go with here. None of the other model runs have really loaded yet. I'm kind of in a weird time frame. But here's today's setup. There is a little bit of a short wave that pops up here, but conditions aren't super favorable over here towards Alabama and the Gulf Coast too much earlier in the day. It's really later where I would be more concerned. Towards OOZ, a secondary shortwave comes in, and I think that would be the trigger point here. Not going to get into any soundings because we're kind of pressed on time here. And then as we look later into the evening, the timing of whether this shortwave fires at 06Z, which would be overnight, or not is going to be a key determining factor on whether or not we see significant weather, maybe even a tornado threat with this. When we get into tomorrow and we watch this shortwave progress off to the northeast here, that's when I'm a little bit more concerned. Maybe more so towards Kansas and Nebraska, I would say the severe weather threat is probably greatest right now. Like I said, the NAM does tend to overdo things, so I'm going to take this with a little bit of grain of salt here. As far as any other areas over towards the Gulf Coast, of course, there's still a little bit of a shortwave, although this looks like it hangs offshore this time for right now. And then as time goes on, we see yet another shortwave begin to develop here. Saturday night, we'll have to watch that towards the plains again. And then this shortwave really starts to ramp up as we head into Sunday night here. So there could be some other live streams ahead. And actually, this sounding here looks pretty impressive, and it's not contaminated either. Oh boy, like I said, this model tends to overdo things, so I'm taking this with a grain of salt. But if this holds up, we could have some problems over here towards Dixie Alley, especially towards Arkansas. Some pretty impressive parameters so far. I'm always eager to see what the other models will indicate here, but NAM is, like I said, is a pretty hot model. And then Monday, there is a probability for severe weather. I'm not entirely clear as to how much of one. There isn't enough confidence in it for a slight risk to be issued at this time. Throughout the day, we'll probably start to get a little bit more of an indicator as we draw closer to Monday. But as of right now, there's no risk area issued. I think it would be more so towards Dixie Alley this time. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the temperatures for this weekend. And I'm pretty much going to be expecting most of the same of what we've seen all week. It's more so just pretty warm temperatures across the south here. Towards the west, we're a little bit cooler, but not by much. Definitely cooler than average for June. But across the eastern half of the country, temperatures are up. Unless you're towards like the far northeast, where we could see a little bit cooler temperatures. For example, Maine being in the 50s by the time we're at about 8 o'clock Eastern. So as we continue to drag this forward, it's pretty much a similar deal leading all the way into Monday. Getting those triple digits back in the central part of Texas, towards western Texas, towards the more desert-like regions. But that's going to be a thing all week and across the board here. It's nothing too far out of the ordinary. As far as our dew point setups for severe is concerned, not much is really going to change with that either. Even though we had the storm set up on a dry line last night, the dew points do look like they recover pretty quickly. Then eventually, towards maybe western Texas, it starts to dry out a little bit, but this could be setting up yet another dry line down the line for more severe weather. So a lot of stuff to really be watched here as we continue our way through this really, really active month. I'm not going to get too much into severe weather parameters, of course. Looking a little bit too far out right now, and I'm kind of pressed on time. But we are going to go ahead and take a look at the national view and see what a radar could look like. Interesting stuff being shown here on the NAM. Like I said, a lot of this I can't take fully into at face value here particularly. So this is today. Here's our severe setup. Like I said, the timing of that shortwave is going to be very crucial as to what happens. If it fires earlier, we could have some problems. But I'm very doubtful of it. Hence why I'm not too keen on going live tonight. But if conditions do uptrend, I will be willing. I would be more than willing to. So that being said, here we're going into Saturday. Here's our next setup here towards the Central Plains. And like I said, these aren't going to be widespread setups here. And then here's something interesting to look at too once we get into Sunday morning. Look at that. Over towards Idaho, there's a chance of snow here, but look where the 540 line, that's a freezing line, by the way. That's a 32-degree line. It's a little bit too far out ahead, but also you have to remember that there's a lot of higher elevations over here, so another thing to keep a close eye on. But as time goes on, end up seeing we do end up seeing this setup begin to emerge over here towards Arkansas, and then maybe another setup could emerge on Monday. On Monday, it looks like we do get a little bit of extra moisture coming in, and it's tied in a little bit closer to that 540 line. So that's going to be interesting to see how things unfold with that. Do I think that's what's going to occur? Hard to say. I'm leaning more towards no. But as we've seen this year, a lot of crazy stuff's happened. So never say never. But that being said, we got one more thing to look at here, and that's the tropics. I'm not going to go super in depth. There's no threats to land towards the U.S., but something very interesting has emerged towards Cabo San Lucas, or the Cabo Verde Islands, excuse me. Cabo San Lucas is over here, by the way, so apologies for that botch. But towards Cabo Verde here, we have this little tropical low that's developed. This has a 0% chance of developing within the next 2 days, but interestingly enough, when we go to 7 days out, look where it's going, and look at the chance that it has now, 40%. I didn't expect this area to be active this early, which I find really interesting, but nonetheless, though, this is something that I'm going to be keeping a closer eye on. Depending on how things go today, I might try and do a thing with that, but again, gonna have to just cross that bridge whenever we get there. But anyways, that's all I got for you on this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Smash that like button, decimate that subscribe button, face kick that share button. We're trying to get out to more people, and we're also trying to get to 500 subs. I think we can do it pretty soon. But that being said here, this has been Tire Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you later. I'll probably either see you later this afternoon or tomorrow morning. Till then, have a good one.